Welcome to number one Saxonwold. I think all of us are aware that this is South Africa's most famous Shebeen. We know that a lot has happened at this premises. This was or still is the property of the infamous Guptas, who are currently on the run away from justice here in South Africa. And we thought that this venue was appropriate for what we want to share with you this morning. One of our values is the restoration of the rule of law in our country. We all know that, we've got reams and reams and reams of the State Capture Commission report, which has to date not been actioned. We have not seen anyone in orange overalls as yet. And we think and we believe as ActionSA that that is a travesty of justice, and that South Africa and the government of South Africa is complicit in the slowness of what has happened with the implementation of the Zondo Commission report. And so we are here this morning. I'm also joined by ActionSA President, Mr. Herman Mashaba, who will come up after I finish these remarks. He will come up and deliver the plan as to what ActionSA intends to do about the goings on of the State Capture Report and the findings of the State Capture Report. As you know, we are going towards elections on the 29th of May this year. And so we are here to deliver to South Africans what we would do if we were to take power on the 29th of May 2024. Joined also by Team Fix SA member for Justice and Constitutional Development, Advocate Julie Seton, who will also deliver her remarks. Team Fix SA is our iteration as ActionSA as to the people we would take into the cabinet, the types of people we will take into the cabinet, the caliber of people, the character of people, and also people with skills. You know that we are very much about merit and meritocracy and excellence in the public service. My name is Lerato Ngobeni. I will facilitate this morning's proceedings. As I said, the first person who will speak is Mr. Herman Mashaba, the President of ActionSA, and he will be followed by Advocate Seton. Let me welcome, without wasting too much time, to the podium, Mr. Herman Mashaba, ActionSA President. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lerato, members of the media, actioners who've graced us with their presence this morning, but most importantly, you, the people of my beautiful country, South Africa. Today, fellow South Africans, we are gathered here at a crime scene, the headquarters of the state capture. There's indeed no better place to announce ActionSA's list of top 10 most wanted prosecutions, where within 100 days after taking office following the 29th May elections, an ActionSA-led government will introduce processes in Parliament to ensure quick and successful investigations and prosecutions of those implicated individuals. It was at this very compound that the Gupta family conspired with our president to capture our state, controlling the apparatus of government, deciding on key state appointments, and ultimately stealing an estimated 500 billion rands from the South African people. It is a travesty of justice that 6 years since state capture came to supposed end with the election of President Cyril Ramaphosa, not a single successful state capture prosecution has actually ever taken place. 2 years since Justice Raymond Zondo tabled the final State Capture Commission report, not a single person mentioned in the report is today behind bars. The Gupta family themselves, after spending 9 years happily hallowing out the state, were able to escape prosecution after the ruling party bungled their extradition processes. Our justice system has been all but destroyed, leaving criminals to get away with impunity. This is simply unacceptable. This has to end. Fellow South Africans, today I'm committing you that an ActionSA government will act decisively to expedite investigations and give the National Prosecuting Authority the teeth it deserves to put criminals behind bars where they belong. Within the first 100 days after taking office, as President, I will immediately proclaim Special Investigation Unit, SIU, investigation into, among others, 1. President Cyril Ramaphosa's Phala dollar cover-up has to really be investigated. The VBS scandals where billions were stolen from our grandmothers and grandfathers. Deputy President Paul Mashatile extensive network of benefactors who sponsor his luxurious lifestyle. And the corrupt relationship between the state and consulting firms that have seen billions being siphoned off from state projects like Kusile and Medupi, to name just the two. We'd also take action to safeguard the independence of the National Prosecuting Authority, the NPA, and ensure that it is adequately capacitated to fight the cancer of corruption in our country. When serving as the executive mayor of the city of Johannesburg, I appointed Major General Shadrach Sibiya as head of the city of Johannesburg first internal anti-corruption unit, JEFIS, a unit that uncovered over 35 billion rands of fraud and corruption cases within 3 years of my tenure. Every time political parties reported cases of corruption against me, that unit carried out those investigations without any political interference from my office. The NPA must be able to act without any fear or favor. Working together with highly capable investigative bodies like reinstated scorpions, the NPA should be empowered to prosecute any political leader, including the president, if they have been found to have broken the law. But currently, the NPA is too heavily dependent on the Department of Justice for its funding, while the National Director of Public Prosecution is appointed by the President. ActionSA will ensure that the NPA's independence by significantly expanding its funding and allocating its budget directly from the Division of Revenue Act instead of the Department of Justice. We'll make sure that the National Department, NPA, is free from political influence. ActionSA will therefore ensure that the NDPP's appointment process is led by a parliamentary committee that isn't dominated by any majority party. Similarly, we will establish a separate oversight committee to oversee the work of the NPA, including its budget, to prevent the repeat of the dissemination of the body scene during the Zuma era. The composition of this parliamentary portfolio committee, like the appointment panel, will ensure that decisions aren't streamlined by a parliamentary majority in order to protect corrupt politicians. Fellow South Africans, don't trust the ruling party's excuses. Accountability in South Africa is possible. The wheels of justice can and in fact move quickly. We can make sure that the justice system works for people of South Africa. In this regard, ActionSA will establish specialized anti-corruption courts to expedite the prosecution of corrupt cases and cultivate a culture of accountability. We will introduce legislation to amend the Constitution to establish an independent Chapter 9 institution to combat corruption, alongside the return of the Scorpion Specialized Investigative Unit. We will increase the minimum sentence for anyone found guilty of corruption in transaction exceeding over 500,000 rands to 15 years of imprisonment without the possibility of a fine or a parole. And every single time someone goes to prison for serious crimes such as rape, murder, drug trafficking and corruption, they will pay back their debt to society by producing goods on farms or being engaged in public works programs. Medical parole will also no longer be abused. Under ActionSA, no person will be released on medical parole, just like we saw with Shabir Sheikh, make miraculous recovery and play golf courses later, few weeks after being released from prison. Former President Jacob Zuma was released on medical parole after only serving 2 months of his prison sentence, but today appear active on the campaign trail at events across the country. Now you tell me, fellow South Africans, how is that possible? Under ActionSA, whistleblowers such as Babita Dekoran, who are heroes in our society, will finally be protected. ActionSA will ensure that legislation is updated to entrench the confidentiality of whistleblowers, ensure that they are protected against retaliation, provide them with appropriate legal immunity, and provide access to remedial action. It is possible to reverse the breakdown of the rule of law which has taken place under the ruling party. Fellow South Africans, the list of 10 most wanted prosecutions we are presenting today is a list of high-profile individuals where a long list of evidence exists for them to be criminally prosecuted. These are cases which are clearly ready to be prosecuted, but instead, the South African people receive excuse after excuse for endless delays, while criminal justice system is abused to prevent those implicated facing accountability. With the mountain of evidence, it is simply unacceptable that these cases are not being speedily prosecuted. Take, for instance, the Lillimine matter as an example. An inquest by the Nelspruit Magistrate Court already found in October last year that the NPA should consider criminal prosecution against individuals, including the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, for the death of 3 miners at Lillimine in February 2016. But 5 months after the inquest, the NPA is here to make a decision on possible prosecution of those involved. This is just one example of how evidence exists for prosecutions to take place, but the NPA is slow to take any action. Even after a court ruling determines that prosecution is necessary, it takes months before anyone is even arrested. Instead, we get delay after delay. Let us be clear, an ActionSA government will never interfere in the National Prosecuting Authority. But it is not political interference which has stopped these cases from being prosecuted, but political interference which has protected these individuals from accountability. Justice Zondo himself said that implementation of the State Capture Commission report has been slow, likely due to a lack of political will. It is a lack of political will which has seen the return of corruption-accused politicians such as Bheki Cele, Zizi Kodwa and David Matobo on the ruling party list to be members of parliament after the 2024 elections. It is a lack of political will that will allow people like Pakstawu to be promoted to Deputy Minister of Cooperative Government and Traditional Affairs in Ramaphosa's government, even after damning corruption allegations emerged. During his time as MMC of Finance in the city of Johannesburg, Tau allegedly conspired with Jeff Makubu to award lucrative city contracts to Gupta-linked regiment capital, for which Makubu's company, Molelwa Consulting, received a 10% kickback. Tau's wife also benefited from the regiment relationship. And then during his tenure as mayor, the prime position land above the Sandton Gautrain station, valued at 280 million rands at a time, was gifted to a consortium led by Regiment Capital. No money was paid to the city of Johannesburg. Pakstau's brother-in-law and mysterious trust, which ANC pedigree, received 10 million rands for this deal. I myself laid criminal charges against Tau in December 2018. But do you think police have ever cared to investigate? Furthermore, More than 2 weeks after National Assembly Speaker Ms. Mapisa Ngakula faced imminent arrest over possible receiving bribes when she was Defense Minister, President Cyril Ramaphosa is yet to condemn her behavior. Instead, she gets away with being placed on special leave, thereby still enjoying parliamentary benefits. That is why ActionSA will introduce a legislative amendment which will prohibit criminals who have been convicted of serious fraud or corruption charges to come to Parliament. An ActionSA government will have the political will to act against corruption, even if it's not convenient. As City of Johannesburg Mayor, I remove no less than 4 MMCs, including 3 from our own party, for poor performance, blocking corruption investigation and misconduct. In government, ActionSA will act with the same level of decisiveness. Fellow South Africans, please allow me now to invite Team Fix South Africa Member of Justice and Constitutional Development, Advocate Julie Anne Lopes-Seton, to present ActionSA's list of 10 most wanted prosecutions. Had it not be for their hiding from justice, individuals such as Busasas, Angelo Agrisi, and Gavin Watson, and Steinhoff Marcus Joster would also have been included on this list. Advocate Seton, the podium is now yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, everybody, actioneers, members of the media, and fellow South Africans. I honestly cannot think of a better place to announce our list of the top 10 most wanted prosecutions and the action we intend taking to ensure that those culpable are brought to book than the Saxonwold Shebeen, which is what we are standing in front of. It is the perfect setting to reveal those we intend holding accountable for their actions. It was really difficult to come up with only 10 names. Regrettably, we are spoilt for choice in the corruption department, and there's a lineup of luminaries who should have made the cut in the worst possible way. I was tasked to bring a charge sheet. However, from the outset, I do need to say it would take a team of seasoned prosecutors several months to come up with proper charge sheets against any of our top 10. Let's start with the definition of corruption. Chapter 2 of the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act defines corruption as any person who gives or accepts or offers to and accepts any gratification amounting to an unauthorized or improper inducement to act or not to act in a particular manner is guilty of an offence. It's a very broad definition. And when you look at that and compare it to what our top 10 have been getting up to, it's clear that so much more than corruption is at play here. We want these people investigated, and we want to remove the investigations from the moribund magistrates court system and the overcrowded high court system, and ensure that these prosecutions are dealt with by specialized courts formed for this purpose, reporting to a Chapter 9 institution. But as ActionSA President Herman Mashaba mentioned in his remarks, an ActionSA government would never interfere in public prosecutions. We do, however, believe that politics have shielded these individuals from accountability. How is it possible that after mounting evidence and 2 years after the final state capture report was tabled, not a single successful state capture conviction has taken place? Nor have any of the individuals with adverse findings against them sought to take the report on review, as has been confirmed by Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. We simply cannot live in a country that allows this level of immunity any longer. We need the political will to take action, capacitate the National Prosecuting Authority, the NPA, and ensure it can fulfill its mandate without fear of repercussion. The list of top 10 most wanted prosecutions we are therefore presenting today is a list of high-profile individuals where clear evidence exists against them. These are individuals who are clearly ready to be prosecuted, but instead we've seen delay after delay and excuse after excuse. They deserve to be held accountable, but for political reasons they are being protected. So without further delay, let me present ActionSA's list of the top 10 most wanted prosecutions. It's presented in alphabetical order and it's therefore not ranked. So don't take the order in which I'm giving it as the order in which we deem as the order of importance. Number 1, Ace Magashule, Mr. Teflon, who uses his sons to foil allegations that he's involved in corruption in the 255 million rand asbestos tender, corruption in the 280 million rand Vrede Dairy project, contravention of the Public Finance Management Act, fraud, corruption and money laundering. And in fact, it was brought to my attention earlier on that one of the houses that his sons occupied is in fact in this very street. Edwin Sodi, top 10 number 2. Not a politician, but well deserving of inclusion. Mr. Sodi has become synonymous with a new capital elite that is siphoning money from government contracts and channels and channels it through to the governing ANC in the form of donations, all the while delivering subpar work, which has contributed to incomplete crucial maintenance of critical wastewater infrastructure such as the Rooiwal wastewater treatment plant. And we all know what happened there, and resulting cholera. It's a disgrace. Mr. Sodi warrants inclusion because of the allegations surrounding the corruption in the 255 million rand asbestos tender, corruption in the 290 million rand Rooiwal wastewater treatment plant tender, contravention of the Occupational Health and Safety Act, in addition to fraud, corruption and money laundering. And the rot must stop. Number 3, Floyd Shivambu. Those who flaunt it and have certainly not worked for the money they have amassed must be investigated and charged for the part he played in the corruption in the VBS Mutual Bank scandal. The 3.6 million rand in the VBS loot traced to Mr. Shivambu's personal bank account. Corruption and money laundering. And it is for this reason that ActionSA would lobby for an SIU investigation into the VBS scandal to unearth the corruption which has taken place, to further solidify the findings of the South African Reserve Bank, the great bank heist which was commissioned by Advocate Terry Mutawa. Number 4, Gwedi Mantashe, back on the ANC lists for Parliament. Notwithstanding the fact that the State Capture Commission report found he unduly benefited from the Bosasa grand-scale corruption. He accepted home renovations and security upgrades from Bosasa. He's been accused of contravention of the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act and has been implicated in bribery and corruption. Number 5, Julius Malema. He who uses anything and anyone to deflect and draw attention away from the luxury lifestyle he leads, without having any means of proving that it was honestly earned. We want to see him being investigated for corruption in the VBS Mutual Bank scandal, the stealing of millions of rands through the VBS scheme, the Public Protector report titled On the Point of Tenders for possible violation of our tax laws, corruption, fraud and money laundering. Number 6, Jacob Zuma. He of the fire pool and Nkandla. Is he a fraud or has he committed fraud? Our chief state capture architect who conspired with the Guptas to plunder the state's resources while deliberately and intentionally aiding and abetting the capture of our strategic SOEs such as SARS, SAA, Transnet and Eskom, just to name a few. His disrespect for the rule of law is manifest in his insistence to again attempt to stand for office, knowing that he may not, and not stopping his party from threatening violence if they do not get their way. This is not somebody we want back in Parliament or anywhere near it. Malusi Gigaba, number 7, a captured minister back on the ANC lists. Notwithstanding the allegations that he accepted cash payments from the Guptas, appointed the Gupta family to strategic positions at state-owned companies, and conspired to capture Transnet possible money laundering and racketeering. Number 8, Nomvula Mama Action Mokonyane, the first Deputy Secretary of the ANC, first female Premier of Gauteng, served as Minister of Water and Sanitation, Environmental Affairs and Communications, and she has been accused of having accepted bribes from Bosasa, seeking to influence the contracting of suppliers for the Lesotho Highlands Water Scheme, violation of the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act, and breach of constitutional and ethical responsibilities, and this needs to be investigated. Number 9, Zandile Gumede, former mayor of eThekwini, Currently under a massive cloud with allegations of hit squads and money laundering abounding. The allegations include defrauding the eThekwini municipality, committing a 320 million rand tender fraud concerning the Durban solid waste tender, contravention of the Municipal Finance Management Act, contraventions of the Municipal Systems Act, corruption, fraud, money laundering and racketeering. And although Ms. Gumede has been charged, we believe the wheels of justice are moving too slowly and are being deliberately sabotaged. Number 10, Zweli Mkhize, yet another candidate in the ANC list. Implicated in corruption in the Digital Vibes tender. 9 million rand was traced to Mkhize's son and his family. The fraudulent contract cost the Department of Health 150 million rand during the COVID-19 pandemic. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the reason we are here today. To highlight the damage that has been caused to our country over the last 30 years. And unless we do take action, the next 30 may be even worse. Let's uphold the rule of law. Let's investigate those who deserve investigation and ensure that those who have wronged our beloved South Africa and her people are pursued to the fullest extent of the law. Let's get the specialised courts up and running and hold those responsible for corruption to account. Let's weed out the rot. Let's fix South Africa on 29 May. I thank you.